Hello there, Comic Clan, and welcome to Comics in the Cross, the greatest streamers you have never heard of. I, of course, am one of your hosts for today, Cross, sitting alongside my partner in crime, as always, Nitro. How are you doing today, Nitro?
I'm good, man. How's everybody doing? In the chat.
Hope everyone in chat is doing well. Thank you so much to everyone who's hung out with us beforehand. If you're just catching the show on YouTube or listening to it later, this does go out live on Twitch every Sunday, and today we decided to do a little pre-ramble rant about some stuff that was going on in the comic book community. We don't have time to delve into it, but talking about the stuff with Rippaverse and Black Sands Entertainment, we got to have a little chat about that beforehand. So if you like hearing us ramble beforehand, come in before 2 o'clock on Sunday, you'll get a little bit of something else. And thank you as well for those shout outs. I don't know why it's not posting the thing.
I don't either.
It's not posting the links, but they're in our chat. Click on their names, go to their pages while we're checking out. Yeah, I don't know why Shout's not doing that. It's like we literally, I check this stuff before we go live. Just saying. Can we get a shout out as well for Geeks Under Grace as well, because LG's in the chat as well. But welcome on, everyone. We are here to talk about probably one of the most controversial Marvel movies of at least Phase 4. I don't think I've seen a movie or a product coming out from Marvel during Phase 4 that has caused so much controversy. It's like literally you either love or hate this movie. It feels like there's very few in between that thought it was alright. Most people either love this movie or absolutely hate it. We are of course going to be talking full spoilers for Thor Love and Thunder.
Full spoilers.
If you are in chat, if you're listening to this right now, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're wherever you get your podcast from, we are 100% doing spoilers for this. If you have not seen Thor Love and Thunder and do not want anything spoiled, you're probably not on the internet anyway, but this is not the podcast for you. Go see it first. If you don't want spoilers, we are going to go into some stuff. We have to.
3, 2, 1, Korg becomes Thor. There you have it. There you have it.
It was a controversial decision, but I thought it was a good one.
It was okay.
I thought it was good, you know.
I think we should preface, though. I think we should preface before we get into this. This is our opinion.
You are so nervous about this.
I'm super nervous. We realize.
See, I don't know why you're nervous. You've lost your geek card like 5 times over at this point. This is the first time I'm risking stuff here.
I'm already on my back foot. You know what I'm saying? I'm already on my back foot from a nerd perspective. You know, again, this is our opinion. We might alienate some people. We still love you. Yeah, that's it. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna say this right off the bat. Then, like, just delve into it. I was not a massive fan of Thor. I did not think this was awful.
All right. So let me. I'm sorry. Let me back up just a second. Going into this movie, I know you and I had different perspectives on Ragnarok. Yeah. Right. So like talk about that a little bit, and then talk about going into Love and Thunder with that.
Yeah. So like I enjoyed Ragnarok. Overall I enjoyed Thor Ragnarok. I thought it was a good change of pace for Thor, because very quickly with the previous Thor movies, I felt like Thor as a character had become kind of stale. Mm-hmm. Like, I get people are wanting a more serious Thor, and that's what they were going for initially, but like what they were doing with the character was very much, he was like, by the time you got to Avengers Age of Ultron, he's just there.
Yeah.
There's not much to him. So I really felt like Ragnarok was a breath of fresh air to him. He had a new look, new haircut, new weapon, he was Stormbreaker. They were revitalizing everything. Or well, not Stormbreaker yet, he didn't have that yet, but you know what I mean, like he's wielding his lightning. It was a whole new feel to it. I am not against comedy in the Marvel movies. I think generally, for the most part, Marvel balances humour very well with everything that's going on. I think they do a really good job of balancing it, and people go, oh, I don't like the comedy in movies, and I'm like, it's a comic book movie. We're meant to have a bit of fun.
If you read comic books have comedic levity in a lot of the books.
It's a comic book, like, have fun with it. It's like you're talking about people with superpowers running around fighting things. It's like, have some fun. So the tone overall for Ragnarok, I did not mind. I liked the comedic elements that were in it. Some of them were a bit too much. Like, it was a little bit like on the nose, some of it, and it was like, okay, like, let's pull it back. But for the most part, they pulled stuff back. There was a lot of serious moments. There was a lot of good conversations. There was a lot of character development for multiple characters. Overall, I thought it was really good because you juggled the jokes with Hela coming back and taking over Asgard, and the backstory of Odin and what was actually going on, the connection with Thor and Loki getting back together and like building that brotherly bond and actually becoming friends, and Hulk, you know, like his story of how he got there and like Ruffalo dealing with that, the bringing in of Valkyrie. There was a lot of stuff that was juggled, and it was juggled really well. Going into Love and Thunder, well, actually, even following Ragnarok, my peak version of Thor was just after that when he appears in Infinity War.
100% agree.
I think that was my peak version of Thor.
100%.
I enjoyed that version. The comedy had been pulled back a bit, and I thought that was the best version because there was funny moments. There was like stuff where it played on like he didn't quite understand certain things, like even just stupid stuff like he keeps calling Rocket a rabbit and stuff like that, or like the eye and different things. I, for the most part, liked that version. I was worried like when we got the Endgame version of Thor. I don't totally think that version of Thor was handled best. That's probably one of my few major complaints about Endgame, was how Thor was handled. Chuck in the Hut, thank you so much for gifting that sub to LJ
awesome,
the Paladin. Appreciate it, brother. Thank you so much, LJ. Welcome to the Nation of Geeks. But yeah, it's like, so when we got Love and Thunder and it was Taika Waititi coming back, I thought, okay, this is going to go back to Ragnarok level. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not my absolute favourite version of Thor, but it's as pretty dang close as you're going to get.
Yeah.
I went into this though, not with Love and Thunder itself being an issue, like seeing the trailers and stuff, but the fact of like what we've gotten so far in Phase 4 has kind of eroded my hype.
Yeah.
For the most part.
We were going into this movie saying this needs to be an out of the parker. This needs to be hit out of the park.
And there's no reason it shouldn't have been.
No, there is no reason.
You're doing a Thor movie, which is building off of Thor Ragnarok, one of the top Marvel movies for pretty much most people. Most people would say, yep, that's a phenomenal movie, one of my top Marvel movies. You're touching on one of the popular storylines of Mighty Thor, amazingly bringing back Natalie Portman, who was done.
Mm-hmm.
Bringing her back for Love and Thunder, and then bringing in Gore the God Butcher. These elements should have made this a slam dunk easily.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't. It really wasn't.
Yeah.
What were your feelings of Thor going into this then? Like you were slightly different on Thor Ragnarok for me. You had a bit of a different stance on that.
So I feel like, you and I talked about this a handful of times. I didn't hate Thor in Thor Dark World or the first Thor, or honestly the Avengers flicks. I didn't hate him. I thought he was a decent character. He did feel a little flat, a little flat. So when Ragnarok came out, I liked the take on Thor. I liked that Thor. I liked Thor as a character in that movie. I think what I had an issue with was just the overall tone of the movie. And I've seen some of Taika's other stuff outside of Marvel, and like Jojo Rabbit, awesome movie. I think what he does in that movie really well is play really dramatic scenes and comedy, like really well. He does it really well. So I know he can do it. I know it can be done. And I haven't seen a lot of his other stuff, but I know he can do that. And I felt like this movie was just, I don't want to say it was a train wreck, but it was just way off the rails. You take any movie that's come before it and say, whoa, that movie has way too much comedy. This takes this and like slams the pedal through the bottom of the floorboard on the car. Yeah. It's way too much. And like I said, I know you and I have talked about this. I wasn't a huge fan of Ragnarok. It's probably not one of my favorite movies. But again, I love the way that they show Thor in that movie. But this movie, I just wasn't a fan.
Yeah.
Like I would give it maybe a 5.5 or a 6 out of 10, maybe.
Yeah, I would
I
say
think
that fairly middle of the road, I would say,
I think
overall.
one of the biggest issues I had outside of the whole comedy thing, which I think it was way too much. Like it was way too much. And the jokes that they did have, they would just keep recycling the same joke over and over and just hammer it into the ground.
Yeah.
Like there's this ongoing gag with Mjolnir and Stormbreaker where apparently now and I'm assuming they did before, but it was never alluded to like this. They have the hammer is sentient. Like it has sentience. Like it can think, it has emotions, everything.
Which which, although it's a thing in the comics, has never been addressed in the movies.
Not alluded to, right?
Since 2011.
And
since Thor 1.
Stormbreaker also has the same sentience. And there's this whole running gag in the movie where Thor is trying to get back with his ex, which is Mjolnir, of course, and Stormbreaker is the jealous girlfriend or whatever. And that's how they're playing it off. And then he ends up like, trying to smooth it over with Stormbreaker. Honestly, that was a complete miss for me. 100 miss. 100%.
Yeah, I just want to catch up on the chat and stuff. So we've got LJ saying, let me see if this actually works and I can bring stuff up on screen. Yeah, I'm sure you guys will get to it, but there was some parts I thought were just undercut because of the comedy. Absolutely agree.
Yeah.
And it says certain aspects didn't hold as much weight as they should have, and yeah, we're definitely going to get to that. And then the last one he threw in there was like gore is one of the best parts, and we are definitely going to get to that.
Yeah, so that I want to talk about that real quick because all right, I don't want to come off as a comic book elitist because I'm not. I promise you, I know way less about comics than the man sitting to my left, right, to my left. But I did read the intro to Gore. I read the Mighty Thor, Gore the God Butcher, and I was super excited for this movie because Gore is a freaking scary villain in the comics. He is a challenge, and I mean that. That's actually not a good word. He is a threat, like an existential threat to Thor. He easily bests him multiple times in the comics, and again, obviously we're going into spoilers already, but Gore was in this movie, Christian Bale's Gore, which he was awesome, by the way. Don't get me wrong. He was awesome as Gore. He was in this movie maybe 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah, he was barely a part. He was barely a part of this movie. And I'm like, oh, there we go. Finally, we got our first disagreement. Lock steady. Oh my gosh, I cannot disagree harder in terms of non-story required stuff. I felt like the scene where Stormbreaker slowly floats into the rear frame was one of the funniest things ever.
I don't mind that if that was just like a fleeting like, oh, that's funny.
I would have preferred.
But when you try to hammer it, like.
I would have preferred it if they'd done it without them having sentience. I would have preferred if they'd done like him like longing to look at Mjolnir while like Jane's holding her, and then kind of like the camera zooms out and just sitting like up against the wall or something as Stormbreaker.
Yeah. And
play it like that, but. I will say that I felt like tons smashed against each other pretty hard. Yeah, I think that was my thing. Is like there was a lot of tonal issues to it as well with that. Let's kind of get more into the stuff here because we're already starting to push into it then and stuff.
I will say this: the screaming goats is one of the funniest parts.
I am not going to lie. I should have. The way I hated some of this comedy and the overdoneness of it in this, I should have hated them. But I laughed every single time I heard that freaking scream, and I can't help it. I don't know if it's just my child mentality or whatever. But when
it's a Pavlovian response.
Smash through the window! I can't help it. I freaking loved it. Yeah, so see, look, okay, there's a good place to start with that. Since we're talking about Gore, let's get into Gore because it's going to take.
Okay.
It's going to take no time because he's not in this practically.
All right, so you and I had this conversation the second we walked out. Out of the theater. We stayed in the parking lot on the curb for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, just talking about the movie.
Yeah.
When I saw the opening to this movie and I saw, Gore's daughter die and him pleading, like begging for help from this god, and then him turning to rage and murdering this god, I was like, dude, this movie is going to be sick. And then there was an immediate shift in tone, which stayed the whole movie. And it was like, I 100% agree, Locke. There was a tonal issue with this movie from right after that intro scene of Gore. After that, it felt like a completely different movie.
My major issues with Gore come from this. From what we got in this movie, he did not feel like a big enough threat.
No, not at all.
He should have been built up, like even like in Ragnarok or Infinity War or whatever, like with Thor. Like imagine in Ragnarok just references to like gods that Thor knew, and then finding out they were dead, and that's it, nothing else. Or like, or even for the fact of like that opening scene with him. Imagine that happening at something like the end of Ragnarok. Because like, yeah, okay, we're getting Infinity War and all this stuff, like, but in the back of your head going through Infinity War and Endgame, you'd be like, Gore's still out there.
Yeah. Gods are suddenly disappearing.
You know, that whole
brutally
scene,
tortured.
the whole scene of Gore was done well at the opening because it was him
so good, man,
praying out to his god and then finding out like his god was an awful person.
Yeah.
And then getting the Necro Sword and just tearing through him and seeing that corruption flow through him, I thought, holy crap, this is going to be amazing.
Yeah.
This is going to be done awesomely. But should have been a build up to Gore. But even with that, the opening was phenomenal.
Yeah.
The problem is following that opening, as with the rest of the movie, I feel like there was very little direction. There wasn't a build up to like this making sense. It was more a case of stuff just happened.
Because the very next scene was with the Guardians of the Galaxy, right?
Yeah, because the next stuff happens with Thor. The next time we see Gore is he appears at New Asgard. And it's like, okay, he's appearing at New Asgard. Makes sense. Technically, the Asgardians are all gods, even if they're just living in a fishing village now. They are gods. Am I going to go around? Am I going to murder all of them? No, I'm going to kidnap their children. What?
How does that make sense? And one thing I should say, okay, again, I'm going to kind of sound like an elitist here with comics, and I don't mean to. But in the comics, one of the main drivers for Gore was that he did not have beef with non-gods. Like, he didn't touch them. He didn't mess with them. In fact, he went out of his way to say, "I'm doing this for you. I have no beef with you." That was a very big sticking point with him in the comics.
The biggest missed opportunity to get him over was they showed him tearing through innocent people.
Yep.
And yet we had a whole citadel of gods. Were you not sitting there waiting for Gore to show up? I was waiting for him to appear out of a shadow and just start taking heads off.
Which can we talk about the what is it called? The Everlasting City? What is it? What is it called again?
Was it Omnicity or something?
Eternal
like
City. The Eternal City. Is that what it is?
We'll get to that in a sec. Let's finish talking about Gore first. We'll get to the gods, because that's a whole other conversation.
That's a whole other one. Yep.
But like, there was no butchering. He kidnapped kids. He terrified these kids, and at the end of the day, there wasn't even a reason for it. All right. And I want to make this point to you. What was Gore's end goal? And I said this to you as soon as we came out the theatre.
And I agree 100%.
Said it to you as soon as I came out the theatre, and I'm going to say it to chat and see what they think on it as well. Gore, his whole purpose is he hates the gods.
Yep.
He thinks they are all awful. They do not give anything to their followers, and he essentially wants to free their followers of having to listen to them. What is his end goal for this movie? To break through using the Bifrost to get to eternity. That was it. I just had to remember which freaking
deity it was.
To get to eternity, because the first person that gets to eternity gets a wish, and that wish will be granted. And the belief is, and I like to point out as well, the belief is he's going to get rid of all the gods. At no point does Gore first of all confirm that. Never at any point does he say what he's actually going to do with his wish. For all you know, he was just going to get his daughter back anyway.
Yeah.
Why would Gore trust eternity?
That's the whole point of his drive.
Gore has been so put off by gods, has been so put off by them thinking they are useless, thinking we should not trust the gods, we should not put any faith in them. But he is going to go to one of the biggest deities there is, one of the biggest celestial powers there is, who is essentially a god above gods.
Mm-hmm.
And what's he going to do?
Basically, pray.
He's going to wish, or another word for that could be he's going to pray to eternity to get rid of all the other gods.
Not only that, he's going to kneel in front of eternity and do
He
that.
knelt in front of eternity, and I'm like, could you see God in the comics kneeling before any god? Because when they said he was going for eternity, I thought, holy crap, he's going to kill eternity. He's going to wipe out everything.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, he's going to make a wish. I'm sorry, what? He's going to essentially pray to eternity to get rid of all the other big bad gods.
Yep.
God the God Butcher, ladies and gentlemen. God the wisher for the big bad gods to go away to the bigger god that's above them all.
Yep.
What just happened? Like, how can you go that far downhill from your opening scene?
Yep.
Like, it doesn't make sense in terms of his character.
I didn't catch that during the movie, but the second you said that, I'm like, dude, holy crap, you're right.
Exactly. LG in the chat there, it's like, he says, yeah, I thought he'd want to take Eternity's power at the very... Yeah! I thought he's going to kill Eternity and like either wipe out everything or take its power.
Yeah.
Imagine him with that power, and I'm like, yeah, I'll take out all the gods myself, and I need as much power as possible to do it.
Dude, Chunk said, someone named Gore the God Butcher should be shown butchering some gods. Yeah, exactly.
One god. We see him killing one god
in the first 5 minutes.
in the opening scene. He legitimately... There's legitimately a city full of gods, and none of them get even injured by him.
The only person who gets injured is by Thor.
I'm like, how? Like, Gore the God Butcher is one of the greatest things to come out of Thor comics in recent years.
Yep.
How do you screw that up? This guy should have been...
I want to reiterate, Christian Bale did an awesome job. I think.
For what he had to work with, I enjoyed.
For what he had to work with, and for the amount of screen time that he had, he was pretty terrifying.
Christian Bale was awesome. He was like, when he was on screen, see when they were in like engulfed in the black of that tiny little planet, it was legitimate horror movie stuff. Like, he was legitimately terrifying.
Yeah.
And I even liked his difference from the comics, but I even liked the fact of like he seemed a bit crazy.
Yeah.
He seemed a little bit off his rocker, like he had literally been driven mad by this vengeance.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm okay with that. Like, I could see that working. Yeah. That doesn't necessarily play against Gore, it's just a different version of him.
Yeah, the Shadow Realm scene was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, that tonal change was crazy though. But like, yeah, the Shadow Realm scene was phenomenal with him. They made a point of saying that Gore didn't know where they were. But like, look, even at that though, I thought that's what they were going to do. I thought they were going to do, hey, we're going to go here, and like, and then Gore shows up and go like that. Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted you to do. I needed someone to show me where they were all hiding.
Yeah.
And take out like the hidden city. Like, I thought that was going to be it, and it's like, no. Instead, it gets taken out by Thor and goats.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. And then even at the end, like, he is driven crazy by his desire to kill the gods. Even if you take out that he goes to eternity and he kneels before it to make this amazing prayer, he hates the gods so much it has driven him mad. But yet, sitting watching the mighty Thor, the new Thor, dying, a speech given by the other Thor, which wasn't even that great a speech, and instead he decides to wish back his daughter into existence just in time for him to die, and hand his daughter over to a god to raise.
I've been butchering gods for thousands of years, but this 5-minute speech from Thor,
which wasn't even that inspired.
It's changed my mind.
It wasn't even that inspired a speech.
Total side note: did you know that was Chris Hemsworth's daughter?
Yeah, it's Chris Hemsworth's daughter.
I had no clue. Why
does Thor get a daughter at the end of this? Because Chris Hemsworth has one, and she has to be in the movie too. We've already got his wife into a movie, so we have to get his daughter in one now.
It's like Lord of the Rings with Peter Jackson's kids.
Yeah.
Like they're in like every scene. Not really. But.
Well, sure,
Right,
but
so
my point is you can't blame no one being hurt. So,
I mean, I know we've touched on the Eternal City a second. I want to pop back there just for a second.
yeah, go on.
Alright, so I think this is another major issue that I had with the movie. Like, I mean, obviously the comics.
Sorry,
are
I'm doing just walking down the stairs holding his title.
So the comics are full of pantheons, obviously full of stories of gods, and to varying degrees, they are intimidating, scary, powerful, funny, all that stuff.
Not in the MCU, they're not.
Not in the MCU. Like, I don't want to over exaggerate, but they made like the pantheon, like they made every single character who had any sort of lines, any sort of scene, they made every single one of them a joke. Every single one, without fail. And like, as a person who, like, again, I know I said this, I love mythology, I love all that stuff, Greek mythology, Roman mythology, all that stuff. It is fascinating to me to see like all the characters, and I'm not just talking Zeus. They made him an absolute joke. I'm not talking about him. I'm just talking about everybody else, and just in general. It was really disappointing. It was really disappointing.
My issue with that scene, I don't think it was even that they made everybody a joke. Like, Zeus absolutely was, and depending on your view, I've seen people arguing the fact that, like, well, Zeus is meant to be a horrible person. He's not exactly a good person.
I get that, man. Get that.
Which I get, but you still made him look like more of an idiot than a credible threat. But even then,
the same thing can be said about Thor as well.
But even then, with that, like, the rest of the pantheon didn't have. We didn't get lines. We didn't get personality. We didn't get purpose, and that's kind of what I kind of mentioned before. Of like, it feels like things just happen in this movie. Like, if you took out that scene, what did we actually lose?
We got the lightning bolt. I mean,
they got the lightning bolt from Zeus. Like, apart from that, but even then, it doesn't like it affects anything.
Yeah.
Same as like the Guardians at the start. The Guardians of the Galaxy were like all over the advertising for this. Hell, McDonald's have even got toys and their Happy Meals that have featured members of the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Well, Ragnarok spent the whole movie talking about how Thor did not need a weapon. He is the weapon. And now we spent half this movie for him searching for a weapon.
Yeah.
Like, does he need a weapon? Does he not need a weapon? What are we doing here? Is the power in him? Or is the power, like, in his weapon?
But I felt like the story was just all over the place. Like, I'm kind of like the Guardians of the Galaxy, it felt like you could literally have written them out and it doesn't affect anything. So, like,
100%.
Why were they even there? They didn't add anything. There wasn't even, like, funny scenes. There wasn't anything. Just, they were fighting alongside Thor. But, like, in the opening scene, like, when, you know, Guns N' Roses was playing and he, like, destroys the big thing.
For the 40th time.
It was like, okay. But he took them all out himself, so the Guardians didn't even help him. He didn't even need them, and then it's like he does a goodbye thing with them, and it's like, so like, what was the point? Because I'm like, how cool would it have been, even if they came back at the end to try and help him or something, or to try and lend a hand of some sort? I'm like, okay, but the God City didn't really go anywhere. Like, if it felt like so much of this there wasn't a purpose. Like, even like Gore taking the kids. I still don't know why he took the kids.
Yeah.
Like, what was the game plan there? Like, I'm holding him hostage to try and lure Thor in, and I'm like, okay. And I'm like, but you know where Thor is? Just go and take the freaking axe.
Yeah.
You've literally went to where Thor is. You went to New Asgard and he was there. Just take the axe. Why are you stealing children to lure him in? Isn't it lucky that he came back to New Asgard when he did? Because if he hadn't shown up, then he'd never have known those children were taken.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm kind of like, why are these things like? Why did these things happen? I felt like it was like, this is a thing that happened. This is a thing that happened. This is a thing that happened, and it was just like Thor going from thing to thing without much consequence.
Yeah.
I felt like there wasn't much purpose to it. Like, even the main story didn't make sense. And I fully know we're going all over the place with this, but this is going to be an anti-episode. I don't care. That's just where we're going with this one. Like,
yep, it's all over the place.
Another one I had to you, I want to post to our chat. Why had Thor never picked up Mjolnir before?
He was never curious.
Like, I literally said that to you. Like, we came out and I'm like, okay, Mjolnir was calling out to Jane Foster and put itself back together. Thor actually even holds Mjolnir in this and proves that he's still worthy.
Yeah.
You're telling me that fat ass Thor never got out of his house on one of his beer runs, went over to where the remains of Mjolnir were sitting, because apparently they built New Asgard where Mjolnir was, and never once tried to pick up that handle. Never once tried to lift it and see. Because apparently it can reconstitute together. It's like Mjolnir just didn't want to. And I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, not once did Thor, when he was there, ever do that in those 5 years.
Yeah.
Since the snap. Like,
really?
But it just put itself back together for Jane Foster.
Yeah.
Why? Because once when they were sitting watching a movie and she fell asleep, he whispered to it, make sure you always take care of her. Like, the whole point of Mighty Thor being a thing in the comics was because Thor was unworthy.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, he was unworthy because of Gore.
Mm-hmm.
Because of what he went through with Gore, Nick Fury whispered in Thor's ear, Gore was right.
Yeah.
And made Thor doubt himself and doubt that he was worthy, that Gore was right, that all gods are horrible and useless and worthless and corrupt, and that he isn't worthy to carry that hammer, so there had to be a new Thor to take his place.
And even that story, like, from what I understand, was just shoehorned into this movie. Even, you know, Jane Foster's whole Mighty Thor thing was just, oh, that's cool, let's put it in the movie.
Yeah. Like, and I agree with that, LG. It's like, if you're going to have Mighty Thor in it, Thor shouldn't be able to pick up Mjolnir. And you could even have tied that in, though. That's the thing. You could even have tied it into the fact of Thor no longer knows who he is. The whole purpose of this movie was Thor trying to find out who he is.
Which I thought he'd done before.
Which we've done.
Multiple movies, but whatever.
Which we already done going into Ragnarok and realising who he was deep down. We did it again in Endgame after the whole Thanos thing. So it's like... So we were going through it again, but even then you could have tied it in. That's why he can't pick up Mjolnir, because after all of these things, he doesn't know how worthy he is. He doesn't know who he is. And if he should pick up the hammer, but then Jane gets it, and that's how she gets the power, and it's like... Can I ask as well that one? What did you think of Jane Foster in this movie?
I didn't mind her. I didn't. I thought the whole, like, trying to find a catchphrase was really dumb, and just to be super honest, I thought that was just dumb.
I felt like it was very unnecessary. I felt like she was brought in just to get a pop of the female Thor.
Yeah.
Because it felt like giving a... Because, like, spoilers, as we've said, Jane Foster dies at the end of this.
Mm-hmm.
She full-blown dies. My problem with it was, it felt like giving a last hurrah to Jane Foster that wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
Because bar showing up in Endgame when they went back in time to get the ether, the reality stone, she has been gone since, like, what, 2014? When did Thor the Dark World come out? Like, she's legitimately not been around for nearly 10 years.
13,
like, even sooner. And it's 2022. Bar that one-off appearance in Endgame when they went back in time, it has literally been 9 years since she appeared as a major character in a movie. She'll come back as Valkyrie, though. I don't think she will, Chunk.
No.
I know she does in the comics, and I know they showed her going to Valhalla in one of the end scenes, which, by the way, kudos for giving a nice little show off to Idris Elba.
Yeah.
I'm glad they got to throw him in there as a little cameo at the end. I liked that I liked.
Yeah.
But her going there was, I believe, Natalie Portman's final "I'm done."
Yeah.
Because she hated working for Marvel. I still don't know what Taika Waititi promised her in order to get her to come back for Love and Thunder. But I felt like it was a pointless story that went nowhere. Just to give her a payoff and have her die. And I'm like, you really... What was the point? I'd rather we focused giving that time to the face-off with Thor and Gore.
I'm gonna be honest. This is probably super controversial, and I don't mean this in any way to undercut Natalie Portman's performance or anything like that, or Mighty Thor as a character, but she didn't add really a whole lot to the movie.
No, she
because
didn't.
I mean, let's be honest. If you were to take the whole Mighty Thor aspect out of the movie and just focus on Thor and Gore, it would have been basically the same movie.
Yeah. It did take a lot, and don't get me wrong, I love Natalie Portman as an actress. I think she's a phenomenal actress, and I really do like the chemistry between her and Chris Hemsworth. I think the two of them do work really well together. I will 100% say that. I buy them as an on-screen romance. They do make me invest in it. What's going on in chat?
Block said, as much as I did, in fact, enjoy the movie overall, I really wish I could disagree with any of this. We get it, man. We get it.
And that's it. And that's the thing. Like, you know us, we like to have a rant. It's like, if something is absolutely awful, I will tell you that I believe it's absolutely awful. And if you disagree with me, that's fine. I don't think this was awful. I think there was enjoyable bits to it. I think I enjoyed parts of it. But I think there was very clear issues with this.
I don't know. Where do you think it the foundational issue was? Do you think it was just in the writing, the story? Because I mean, I think everybody acted the crap. I think everybody did a decent job, like acting wise. I
feel like the story was too cram-packed. I feel like it was almost like they had too many ideas and like, let's do them all, and none of them worked.
Let's do Mighty Thor. Let's do Gore. Let's do all of them.
We have to do Mighty Thor.
We got to do Guardians.
But the problem with Mighty Thor is that everybody thought Jane Foster's getting the hammer. I'll hold my hand up. I thought Chris Hemsworth's Thor was dead.
Yep.
I thought this was his last hurrah. I thought Gore was going to kill him. He did not. I thought Natalie Portman coming back as Thor, that's going to be Thor going forward. That is going to be our new Thor. But instead of building on Thor, and instead of building on the backstory, LJ kind of mentioned it, like her story with cancer as well, instead of building on the story of every time she takes on the mantle of Thor, it flushes her system of everything that's saving her from the cancer, and making that a storyline going forward, nothing happened. She died. So it went nowhere. Instead of taking the time to build up Gore, the first sign we see of him is in this movie, and then he dies at the end of it. The Guardians of the Galaxy show up, and nothing happens with them of worth. We get introduced to the pantheon of gods
for like the first legitimate time.
First time outside of Asgard we have seen any other pantheon of god. I'm sorry,
it's played as a joke.
I was waiting for freaking, what is it, Bast from Black Panther to show up at some point. I was waiting for
that and reveals and stuff.
How cool would it have been if they recruited that Bast, like, I'll help you, and then with Hercules, awesome. we got Hercules in the final, like one of the end credit scenes. How cool would it have been if Hercules showed up like during that and went, I'll help. They'll then walk away. Zeus think it's a joke and they walk away, and then Hercules comes up and goes, hey, I'll come and help you.
Yeah,
that would have been awesome. Make them worthwhile, make some of them credible. And it's like, instead there was no purpose to it, and it's like, I feel like he left with the Guardians, so we have to show the Guardians. We need to do Gore the God Butcher, but we've not set him up.
Yeah,
we're going to do Mighty Thor, but like Natalie Portman's only coming back for one movie, so she's going to have to die at the end. And it very much became a case of like, all of this has to fit in one movie, and none of it got the time that it wanted. And instead of focusing on building those stories, we got all this over-the-top humour. I do not like frat boy, thick jock Thor.
No, exactly.
Because that's what he comes across as, like, hey, yes, hello everyone. Yes. And it's like,
all right,
you are not an idiot. You're a king. You are the king of Asgard.
Here's the thing. This dude is how old? Like thousands of years old, right? He's like thousands of years old. Mm-hmm. And we're playing him off to be like a 25-year-old, just absolute moron of a dude.
Because my problem is that that's what he was like at the start of Thor. He was the gung-ho, haha, who cares, I'm just this big dumb jock, I'll smash through everything. The whole point of the first Thor movie was that he grew and learned and moved beyond that. And then it started to creep back in during Ragnarok, but it wasn't as much.
No, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't as bad as this movie.
And then it was like full blown in this. Like he's basically an idiot. He's basically an idiot.
He is an idiot.
The thing that gets him through most of the situations is Jane Foster and Valkyrie.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I know we've talked about this a couple of times. Like, I am all for representation in movies when it comes to like female representation, female superheroes, and stuff like that. But when you do that at the expense of like a male character, and like you dumb down a male character to lift up a superhero, that's not the way to do it. That's not the way to do it. And I feel like they definitely took that route in this movie.
Yeah. So I'm just reading Locke's comment there about Gore as well. Like, what irks me the most is Gore falling prey to the same misstep of all the MCU, getting killed instead of defeated. Is that so far it means they threw away the Necrosword too? Like, yes! The freaking Necrosword, and it just disintegrates and disappears. Mm-hmm. It's like, seriously? Like, seriously?
Yeah. No, I guess.
My question is like that, like even Locke saying that is like, why couldn't Thor have defeated Gore? Why did he have to talk him round with a crap speech? Why can't we, like, he's already doomed, he's defeated, and it's like, do we have to have a redeemable villain? Does he have to have redeeming qualities, or can he not just be beaten?
Yeah.
Like, this guy was non-stop ripping through gods to the point, like in the comics, to the point of like, if we do not kill him, we're all done for.
Yeah.
He will not stop. He cannot be reasoned with. He believes what he is doing is pure, and because it cost him his family, it cost him everything.
Yeah.
He would never entrust a god to take care of his daughter. He would never entrust a galactic celestial entity to help him defeat them. He's like,
how cool? I mean, how cool would that have been? Like, he went out dying on his sword, so to speak. Gore did, saying, "No, I'm not going to do that." And his daughter comes into the picture, and Thor takes his daughter anyways. And his daughter, you know, is raised by somebody that her dad hated, but he raises her as his own. That would have been a cool way to kind of skew that, but still have the same ending, almost.
No, absolutely. I want to grab Locke's next thought here, because that's kind of like following on from his last one of knowing the post-credit scene of No Way Home included a piece of Venom staying in the MCU. I was so hyped for Gore because I was hoping he would have the Necrosword to set up Null, hoping it would be the next Thanos or at least Loki. Mm-hmm. Next galactic like level threat. We could have done Null, who is a phenomenal villain in the comics. I'm
just reading Gates' run on Venom, and they just introduced Null. He's awesome.
It's like you could have introduced that so well, and it's like, and kind of like what LG is saying, there's like, I don't see we're going to see Null. Mm-hmm. I don't think we're going to see Null now. Like, they got rid of the Necrosword. Like, I don't know. I know we're kind of all over the place with this review, but I'm like, I legitimately came out of it like, I don't mind a movie that's made more funny, and I don't have an issue with an MCU movie being on more of the comedic side. I believe there's all sorts of types of movies in the MCU, and if one's going to have a more of a comedic tone, I'm all for that. Mm-hmm. I felt like this was non-stop joke. And my problem, I don't know how you felt on it, but my problem mostly with the jokes wasn't just the frequency of them, which was bad, but the fact of like, I found myself not laughing. Like, the jokes came up, even the first time most of the jokes came up was like, maybe it would have got a huh out of me.
Yeah.
But I'm like, they overdone jokes, but even the ones they didn't overdo that were just singular, like, I just didn't find it funny.
Dude, I remember one time specifically, I turned to you and I said, you've got to be kidding me, right? Mm-hmm. It was like you said, there were one-off jokes.
I don't remember what bit it was. I felt like that for most of the movie, to be honest. But like,
I mean, there were one-off jokes that didn't really land for me. The goats were not one of them. They were funny every time they showed up. But
I don't know why. Like, I loved LJ's comment earlier when he goes like that. It's like they were a lot less annoying than they should have been. Like, I seen the goats when they first came in and started screaming. I went, oh no.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh no, that's what we're going to get through this, is screaming goats. And it's like, and they were freaking hysterical. And I don't know why I found them so funny. I think because they were used sparingly and they were used at the right moments, I found them funny.
Yeah. It wasn't just in actual jokes. It was situational. Every situation was turned into a joke, and not just like verbally. They were giving a joke. It was every situation. Like when he blew through. They were having like a town hall meeting, and Thor showed up, and he blew through the ceiling. Like, obviously you're gonna shatter the ceiling, and there's gonna be all this debris. You turn the Pantheon into a joke. You turn the hammers into a joke. You turn the catchphrase thing into a joke. And this is a really, really hot take, and I realize this, and I'm probably the only one who thinks this way, but I'm just not a huge fan of Korg, and he's like on a whole nother level of Korginess in this movie.
I think I'll be honest, I liked Korg in Ragnarok. I thought it was funny. I thought he played a good role. And this, I get how it could be too much, because Korg is a great comic relief side character, but you have to give him a straight man to play off of.
Yeah.
You have to give him like a straight talking character that's not that comedy, so that it doesn't come too much. And even Locke saying as well, like, Korg was in this way too much. It's like, yeah, like they've really relied on Korg a lot, and it's like, do you know what Korg felt like to me? And I think I said this to you as well. It felt like Drax in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes.
Like, he got over huge in the first movie, and they took everything that everyone said they loved about him in the first movie and like turned the dial up.
Turn it up to 11, yeah.
For like Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and it was like, wow, that's too much. That is no longer even the same character. With Korg, I felt like it wasn't turned up quite as much as Drax was, but they definitely dialed it up to try and play into it. Yeah, LJ, like I love Korg in Ragnarok, like, piss off, Ghost.
Yeah, you said that when we came out of the movie. You were like, that would have been...
Every time I see that clip, I laugh. I can't help it. I don't know why. That big rock kicking the door, kicking the wall, trying to get Loki, is freaking hysterical to me. Every time.
One thing we haven't kind of mentioned either is, like, when you take somebody's power that makes them special in a comic book or a comic book movie or whatever, and you just... You take that power... and you just give it to a lot of other people, like, and you make them basically on level with this person that you've been building up over basically a decade. That makes that person not really special anymore. That makes that person and what they represent really not that special anymore. And I'm talking about the end scene with the kids. I thought that was a really cool way, like a kind of like a cool thing to do. But in the way that I'm looking at it, like, that just, I don't know. I feel like that took the specialness of Thor, like, and just, I don't know. I felt like it did something with it, not in a good way.
Yeah, it felt weird, like, all the kids getting a bit of Thor's powers to fight, and I'm like, I don't know how I felt about that. It was just kind of like, okay, I'd rather just watch Thor fight Gore.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd rather watch that. But even like that, you're saying, like, I think even the specialness kind of goes, this movie, I don't feel like needed two Thors.
No.
Because that's what we got. The thing is, when it happened in the comics, and I know we're referencing the comics a lot for this, but like, if you're going to rip all the stuff out of the comics, I'm going to compare them.
Yeah, absolutely.
When it happened in the comics, when Jane became Thor, first of all, that was a mystery for like a year and a half. We did not know who had picked up the hammer. Second of all, Thor was no longer Thor. He wasn't even called Thor anymore. He was called Odin's son. He just went by the last name. Because Jane had became the Thor. The whole thing of this, of her calling herself the Mighty Thor in this, didn't make sense, except that that's the name of the comic book. Like, oh, I'm the Mighty Thor. And I'm like, you've really not done anything mighty to earn that.
Yeah.
But like, the whole purpose of it was that she had the powers of Thor and Odin's son didn't. And instead, with him, we got this emotional journey of him trying to find his place in the world without being Thor, and dealing with not being worthy and not being who he thought he was.
Yeah.
And the emotional weight, it wasn't the fact that he lost his stupid hammer. It was the fact that he was no longer worthy to carry it. He was no longer worthy to pick it up. That he wasn't who he thought. And honestly, the fear that Gore was right.
Yeah.
Am I as good as I thought I was?
I'm just like...
But there was no chance to explore any of that.
Yeah. I mean, I just feel like you spend the entire phase 1 through 3 talking about how special you have to be to hold Thor's power, whether that be through Mjolnir or just in general. And I just feel like that's not a thing anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
you don't. I'm not saying Jane Foster's not special. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. I'm just like, I'm just talking about like the kids. Like, you don't have to be special to be Thor anymore. Like, he just gotta give it to you. That power is just, he just gives it.
I still don't totally understand how that works. Like, he passed around the power that he had inside himself. I'm like,
what?
How? Like, Jane got it because of Mjolnir.
Yeah.
Like, same way that, like, Endgame, Cap picks up Mjolnir and he can wield lightning. It's like,
That's such a cool...
the hammer allows you to, like, channel it. Like,
yeah.
How is he just passing it around to these kids?
Well, and that's such a cool scene. Like, that payoff in Endgame when Cap picks up Mjolnir and Thor... Because it's not just Cap. That part is awesome. It's Thor's part in that scene where Thor's like, I knew it.
Yeah.
Like, I knew you were worthy. I knew it from the second you touched that hammer.
That callback to Age of Ultron when it squeaked just that little bit.
I knew you were worthy. I didn't want to say it at the time because I had a chip on my shoulder, but I knew from the second you touched that hammer you were worthy. That is what gave me chills. Cap picking up the hammer was awesome. That gave me chills. But when Thor said I knew it, that was like the icebreaker. That was like the overflowing the cup, whatever. But
I felt like this had so much potential.
Yeah.
And it's like it faltered so much for me. Like this is like, don't get me wrong, this is not the worst of the Phase 4 stuff that I've seen.
No.
And there's definitely stuff that's worse than it, in my opinion. But this is not even close to it. Like this is middle just because there's stuff worse than it. You know what I mean? There's definitely stuff that is way better than it.
Yeah.
I want to kind of change the conversation in because I want to get into this as well, and I feel like this is going to push forward as well. Then I want us to have a little review of Phase 4 up to this point. What is Phase 4? How do we feel Phase 4 is gone at this point? Because we're now 2 years into Phase 4. Not even a year and a half, because Phase 4 technically kicked off start of 2021. Because nothing came out in 2020, so we're a year and a half into Phase 4. And we've got a bunch more projects to come out. Phase 4's not even close to done.
Nope.
So I posted this online in our social media, and I posted it in Discord, and freaking Discord popped off. I came back with like 54 messages unread. Like, what the hell happened in here? We have never had that many messages that quickly on a topic I have posted.
I think everybody was just online at the right time. It was awesome.
Everyone had an opinion on it. Are we being oversaturated with MCU content? And is it affecting the quality? Because I did the math, and I told you about this before I posted it. Phase 1, and Phase 1's actually a good comparison, because Phase 1 was finding its footing. We hadn't solidified into Phase 2 and 3 yet. Phase 1, we had 6 movies. Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America, First Avengers. 6 movies in 4 years. 2008 to 2012. 6 movies in 4 years to get to the Avengers. And that's it. And I know people said it in the comments and stuff in Discord and all of that Phase 1 isn't the best phase. It was still finding its footing. Absolutely. But it's
pretty good though.
It's still got some good quality movies. Iron Man's still a solid movie. I still solidly like Captain America: The First Avenger. Avengers is still pretty good, even with some of the issues it's got. Incredible Hulk's a decent watch. You know, it's not like they're awful.
I like Incredible Hulk.
It's not like they're awful movies. You know, but in Phase 4, we have had, first of all, 7 Disney Plus shows. We've had one more Disney Plus show than we had movies in the entire Phase 4. Phase 1, sorry. And we have had 6 movies. That means that we have had 13 Marvel projects in the last 2 years. We have had over double the amount of projects, not including the ones that are still to come out. I know there's still stuff coming out later this year, but so far we have had over double the amount of Marvel projects in half the time. We went from 6 movies in 4 years to 13 projects in 2.
I think I saw it online where I think Phase 1 through 3 we have 55 hours of content. I think something like that.
Mm-hmm.
In Phase 4 so far, we have 100 hours.
I can believe it.
100 hours.
So that
now, I don't know if that's accurate, but that seems, you know.
It feels it because with the shows, obviously each of the episodes, the show's an hour, so it's like So that's what 6 hours times 7. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just with the shows alone.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can believe it. But that was my question, was like, because usually I would have been like, because I'm fully of the belief of like more is better with the MCU up to this point. Like coming into Phase 2 and Phase 3, we started upping the ante, 3-4 movies a year, and I loved it. And I saw people in the chats and Discord, which I didn't totally understand, saying like, oh, Phase 2 was okay, it was still up and down, but Phase 3 was like phenomenal. Like, I'm sorry, Phase 2, you've got stuff like Winter Soldier, you've got stuff like freaking Guardians of the Galaxy, you've got, you know what I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some there that aren't as great, but they're still pretty decent.
They have some of the best movies in Phase 2, I think.
Some of the best movies in Phase 2.
And arguably, in my opinion, one of the best. I think Winter Soldier is still one of the best to hold.
Winter Soldier is still the top, if not one of the top movies. Depending on where you think it feels stacked up against Infinity War and Endgame, it is 100% still in my top 5, if not top 3 MCU movies.
Yeah, it's top 3 for me. Like, Spider-Man: No Way Home I just love that movie.
Mm-hmm.
But Endgame for me, and Winter Soldier, those are my top 3, and they switch. They switch in and out. Those are my top 3.
You know what I mean? It's still some of the greatest stuff. And then obviously we got into Phase 3 and we got some phenomenal movies in that as well.
Gangers, yep.
At the same time though, there was a couple of missteps in that. Like, I don't feel like Guardians of the Galaxy 2 was as good as the first one.
Let's be honest, there's a couple missteps in each phase, right?
Yeah.
Right? And I think everybody is pretty open about that.
Yeah.
I think to your question though, like, is there oversaturation? I am also of like mind and say I cannot be oversaturated with CBM stuff. As long as it's decent and good, I cannot be over. You just keep it coming. Just keep it coming.
Do you think then it's a case of the quality dropping in it?
Yes. Because if you look back at the phases, you look back at Phase 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to be generally speaking, but let's say 70% of those movies were hits.
Yeah, for the most part, like there's some that don't hit right and some that feel different, but for the most part.
For the most part, let's say 70%. This is an awesome movie. I'm so pumped to see the next one. Right? Let's look at these movies that have come out. Right? You have Black Widow. Not a horrible movie. I hated the way they did Taskmaster. Not a horrible movie. I feel like it came out 5 years too late. I feel like that was a miss for me. Shang-Chi was a banger. Awesome movie. I love that movie. Eternals, I realize I might be in the minority. I didn't mind it. I liked it. It wasn't the greatest movie. I realize people hated it, and I get why they hated it.
Yeah.
Let's say average at best.
I say average. I think it had potential, but for me it was just boring. It's like literally for like 80% of that movie, 75-80% of that movie, nothing happens.
Yeah, I get it.
Like legitimately nothing happens, and I'm like, do something, anything.
Spider-Man: No Way Home, banger. Right?
Absolute banger.
We can all agree.
One of the best movies in the MCU, without a doubt. Like
Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness.
Decent, average.
For me, it was mediocre. Like there was a lot of misses in that movie, and there was some cool spots. It was mediocre for me.
Yeah, I'd say average. I had some good moments, but I had some awful ones.
Thor, in my opinion, was a very big miss.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously we have Black Panther coming up, but we have all the shows as well. And I think just again, this is me generally speaking. Again, my opinion. I think overall the shows are mediocre at best. There's some high points. There's some really low points. But I think on the whole, barring a few exceptions, like in my opinion, WandaVision is up there. I think Loki is up there. I think they're all mediocre.
Yeah. I enjoyed WandaVision. I enjoyed Loki. I finished Miss Marvel finally. I finally got through that, and I thought it was decent. I think my problem is with Phase 4. I don't think anything has... There's nothing that has made me go, wow.
Yep.
Like, not really. Like, yeah, we had Spider-Man, we had Shang-Chi, and those were like top class movies for me. I loved them. But for the most part, everything else has felt like, And I think that's something as well that they've not taken into account. Like, okay, we're maybe not oversaturated. But, like, think about it, like, at this point in Phase 1, you know, like a couple of years in, by the end of Iron Man 1, we knew the Avengers was coming. And we were building to that. And
you started building on it from the first movie.
From the end of the Avengers, we got the appearance of Thanos, and we started building. We knew, little by little, the Infinity Gauntlet was coming, and Thanos was coming. And everything started to build to that. I think the thing was that, like, by the end of Avengers, we saw Thanos. So we knew the Avengers was the first step, if we can get there, and then when we got there, it was like, okay, we're now building to Thanos.
Yep.
My problem is that when we finished Endgame, we are now 13 projects into Phase 4, and not only do we not have an end goal, not only are we not leading towards something obvious, actually, in fact, most stuff doesn't seem to even matter.
No.
In the bigger story, and I think, and that's something as well. I'm going to speak about these two separate points. I want to get both of these out, because a lot of people kind of said the fact of like, well, it's not building to stuff, but you know, it's like, but there's other stuff that didn't build to stuff, and it was a good movie. And I'm like, yeah, 100%. I'd like speaking of Thor. It's not building to anything. It doesn't factor into building towards the future of the MCU. But I feel like it fails at being a good movie. Whether or not it ties in, whether or not any of these tie into stuff, a lot of them fail at being stuff that I'm intrigued and interested in and think are decent quality. In terms of the bigger story, we are now 13 projects in. We don't have an end goal of where we're going for the new phase and era. You don't have to do it for a next Avengers movie. It can be 10, 20 years down the line. Just give me something that this is what we're building towards.
Yeah.
But the fact is, like, little thing. The thing is, we went through the last 3 phases. There was little things that kept hinting. Like, this connects to this, or this. Oh, we're going to mention this person. Oh, here's a cameo from this. Yeah. Here's a cameo from this. Oh, here's that one. Oh, this ties into this. Oh, that happened over there. Well, that did this here.
Yeah.
Legitimately, there's like none of that. Movie wise, what did we get? Well, let me split this one in for the big thing. What's the big thing it felt like we were building towards? Possibly was the multiverse.
Yeah.
And we've even had multiple projects comment on the multiverse. We had projects set up like. But the thing is, like, we've now had about 4 or 5 projects that reference the multiverse, but they've all referenced it differently. Low key, basically set up the fact of like because of what they did, the multiverse is now a thing. All these separate timelines that were getting trimmed off are now just spreading and becoming a multiverse, and setting up for the introduction of Kang. At least that's what it was hinting at. I didn't outright say it. We haven't seen, and I'm actually worried. I'm actually worried about seeing him in Ant-Man and Wasp, because I'm like, is it going to be worthwhile?
Yeah.
But not only that, but the other MCU stuff doesn't even like reference that, doesn't go into it. Just the multiverse is there. So if you take out Loki, I don't know how it's going to factor into its second season, but if you take out Loki, it doesn't change anything. Because the other movies literally go like, oh, the multiverse is there, and it's like just like, oh, we've never talked about it before, but it's here. Spider-Man, it gets opened up. Doctor Strange, we go into it, and it's a whole thing of Wanda looking for her kids and all that, and even referenced it at the end of WandaVision.
Yeah.
You know, it's like Miss Marvel now comments on it. Spoilers for Miss Marvel, but it comments on it because her powers and stuff come from her family coming from another dimension, which is basically a multiverse.
Yeah.
It sets it up weirdly, like it's not quite another universe, but it is. It's,
Yeah.
you know, which I love the fact that that's how we're getting the mutants into the MCU. By the way, is that they're all just showing up in multiverse, other universes, and coming through.
I mean, let's be honest. How else were they going to do that?
I know, but like it. You know what I mean? If you go through all the stuff, it's like, where do we start off? Like Black Widow, a little bit extra story in her, but it doesn't even like retrospectively add to the story. So it's kind of like it's there or it's not. Her sister's now part of the MCU. I'm like, okay. What do we have? Shang-Chi. They're hinting that something's coming. And like with the rings and stuff, and it's signaling to something. So okay, that's hinting at something.
Yeah.
Spider-Man didn't really set up anything in the wider verse, just as a new setup for Spider-Man, but all that's changed is like nobody knows it's Peter Parker's Spider-Man. No one knows who Peter Parker is, but like that's not had an effect on anything.
Nope.
What are the other movies? I'm completely blanking on movies now.
You have Eternals.
Eternals. Nobody even references the fact that there's now a freaking celestial coming out of the water, head and hand coming out of the water. Are we going to reference it?
Not once.
Not once anywhere else has that been referenced. Doctor Strange. Not a knock-on effect. America Chavez is now in the MCU, but doesn't have a knock-on effect on anything.
No, and let's be honest. When you title a movie Multiverse of Madness, how do you drop the ball on that when you've been pointing to that for like a year or two?
You know,
like, they showed us all these different multiverses in this montage of like 10 seconds or whatever, and we went to one other multiverse or one other universe.
Yeah, and then even like with Thor Love and Thunder, there's no knock-on effect. Just next time, it's just this Thor will return, and if he returns, we're going to have his daughter. And it's like the only thing that came out of that is at some point in the future we're probably going to see Hercules. But even then, that's not necessarily a guarantee of even when he's going to show up again.
Yeah.
And it's the same with the MCU shows. Like most of the shows are self-contained. Most of them aren't getting second seasons. Most of them, the characters, even if we are going to see the characters again, we don't know when. Like Wanda's dead, she might show up again, but probably not. White Vision's still out there. Is he going to get referenced again? No idea. The Falcon is now Captain America and he's getting a movie, but that's it. There's not even much around that at the minute.
He's not been mentioned since Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah, it's like Loki's getting a second season, fair enough. Miss Marvel, she's going to be showing up in the Marvels. So like, okay, we've got a couple of things happening. Hawkeye, we're going to do a second season of it. Actually, no, we're not.
Yeah, we're not.
You know what we're going to do? We're going to set up Echo. We're going to set up Echo as a TV show, and apparently Kate Bishop's going to show up again at another point. And it's like there's little teases. I think my thing is that with so many projects though, all we're getting is hints at where it's going to go.
Yeah.
We're getting hints at what could possibly be, but none of them feel like we're going anywhere. No. And it's like, and that's one side of thing, and that's the thing. Don't get me wrong. I know we've been spoiled by Phase 2 and 3, and it's setting up a brand new thing. My thing is though, like when you've got something like the MCU and the way it's running, you know the end game is coming.
Yeah.
What are you planning for the future? I mean, maybe we're going to get that with Black Panther because we got all the leaks about Doctor Doom.
Yeah.
Possibly being in it, which could be setting up stuff, obviously. But like that's just one of my major things. Is like I guess like watching this stuff is I feel like most of it is inconsequential. But the problem is like even the stuff we're getting, most of it at best is average.
We had this chat in Discord the other day when you were talking about it popping off. Like we obviously have the hindsight of a decade of these comic book movies and be like, oh, that's where they tied that in and that in and that in and that in. I get that. I 100% get that. Like maybe, you know, in 2014 we had no idea what was going to happen in, you know, or maybe in 2009, 2010 we were getting, you know, Thor and Captain America. We had no idea what was going to happen in 2012.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Fair enough. I get that. Fair enough. There were still, you know, again, to be fair, there were still directional points to this is kind of where we're headed. This is kind of where we're headed. If you know the comic books at all, this is kind of where we're headed. And again, we have almost double, let's say roughly double in phase 4 what we have in phase 1 through 3. The double the content, and there's still no clue what's happening. No clue what's happening at the larger scale. Nothing.
The thing is, there's so many little hints, and I'm like, but there's nothing towards, because all these little hints could be a bigger story. Like, we could do Kang the Conqueror, or we could do Secret Invasion, or we could do the Mutants, or we can do Doctor Doom, or we could do all of them in different sort of variant. But like, it feels like there's so many little tidbits. But my main issue is, like, and I said this to you, was the fact of, like, it's literally almost becoming a full-time job to keep up with Marvel's content, and I don't care. Overall, I do not care if the quality is good. You give me freaking, like, 13, 14, 15, 16 projects it'll be by the end of the year.
Yeah.
If they're all great quality, I am going to sit my ass down and watch them. Yeah. I will sit down every Wednesday when the new episode drops on Disney Plus, and I will watch it. I will get to the cinema every time a new movie drops, and I will watch it. You know, it's like, I have no issue with that. My problem is the quality's. It legitimately feels like the quality's dipped. We have had some amazing movies come from the MCU across all 3 phases. All 3 of the phases to this point have had amazing content. And I feel like, apart from maybe 1 or 2 things, we have not had that in phase 4.
Yeah.
The difference is, over the last 12 years that we've had to get here, things have changed. Like, Marvel was a unique thing. The problem is, there is a lot of content competing.
Yeah.
Some of it is, like, intentionally coming out and competing in it, some of it not, some of it's just good quality stuff. Like, and I said it to you, even compared to, like, other comic book stuff, so, like, that's happening. But then you've got stuff like DC starting to drop some bangers now. Like, it's even January, if you told me Peacemaker would have been as good of a show as it was, better than it had any right to be, being a movie about a, like, what, Z-list character from DC Comics played by John Cena, was going to be that good quality of a show,
dude.
Or that Robert Pattinson's Batman would be as a phenomenal a watch as it has been.
Even James Gunn, the Suicide Squad, man, I like that movie.
The Suicide Squad movie was
awesome.
great. The James Gunn one was phenomenal. I loved it.
Look,
then you've got quality stuff out with of DC. Literally just wrapped up, like, last week, The Boys.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's a phenomenal TV show that is, like, knocking it out the park every season now. Invincible, an animated show.
One of my favorite anime comic shows of all time.
One of my favorite comic book shows ever, and is competing with high-level stuff coming out of Marvel. Then you've got other shows that beyond that, like Stranger Things 4 just dropped.
Awesome.
One of the best shows I have watched in, I don't even know how long.
A very long time, yeah.
It was a phenomenal show. Phenomenal writing. I was invested.
Yeah.
Like, all of this stuff is dropping, and it is giving some of Marvel's content a run for its money. And the problem is that, and I think I've said it to you before, is like, there's only so much time in the day. If I'm, you know, and I get people have different lives and different stuff going on, but, like, speaking from my own experience where I am, and that's the thing, anyone that's listening, anyone that's here in the chat, anyone that's watching, if you love what Marvel's doing in Phase 4 and it's hitting all the right notes for you, fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm happy for you. This is 100% our opinions. That's why we have a podcast. That's why you come to listen to us, is to hear us rant about our crap opinions. It's like, whether or not you agree with us is completely up to you. But I'm a family man. I've got a wife. I've got 3 kids. First of all, they need my time. I've got a job. I work about 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, give or take. I think that's the right amount of time. I'm not adding that up. I don't care enough. You know what I mean? It's like, that takes up my time.
Yeah.
I've only got so much time left, but I love multiple content. I've got my hobby. This is my hobby. I would love this to be my full-time job, but it's a hobby because it doesn't pay my bills.
Yeah.
If y'all want to start subbing and dropping donations and make it a full-time job for me, I will love you forever. 100%. That's going to take a lot of money, and I don't think all of y'all, I'm not going to ask y'all to go out of pocket for that just to make sure I can pay my rent. Or pay my mortgage every, month, you know what I mean? But it's like, but this is a hobby, so like I have to put time to make Comics in the Cross a worthwhile thing. This takes time.
Yep.
Setting this up and planning podcasts, getting guests for the show, getting topics, let alone the other streams that we do, takes time. So I've got a very limited time for recreational things. But recreational stuff can be movies, can be TV shows, can be video games, or hell, it can even be comic books.
Yeah.
Amazingly, we still read those. We find time. I don't know how we find time, but we still freaking find time.
Right before bed for like 5 minutes.
And like, if I've got a limited amount of time to give to that that content that I want to give my time to,
yeah,
it's going to become a lot harder to give my time to stuff that I'm finding subpar.
Yeah.
I'm going to look out to the content that I enjoy and the content I find the best. And my problem is, over the last couple of years, there's been some absolute bangers for me that have came out from Marvel. I really enjoyed WandaVision. I thought it started off Phase 4 strong.
Awesome.
I really enjoyed Loki. I thought that was a phenomenal show. Like Spider-Man No Way Home. Like, the hype around that movie and seeing all three Spider-Men together as an integral thing, I can't explain how hyped it was watching. I haven't been invested as a kid watching Spider-Man when it came out back in like 2002 to seeing it all come together now. Even Shang-Chi, finally getting a martial artist in the MCU that's worth it compared to Iron Fist.
But Iron Fist.
Shake your face. We don't talk about Iron Fist, right? We don't talk about Iron Fist in this house.
We don't say his name. It's Voldemort. Shut up.
It's like, we don't say that name in here.
So like, there's two problems here that we're talking about. I think the current MCU, there's two issues. One being, there's no continuity between all of the different properties at the moment that we can see. Yeah. Which again,
and I will say, if that changes, I'll hold my hands up.
And I know the chat's been kind of popping off a little bit. I think that might be due to COVID to some extent. I know, LJ, you said you don't think it is, and I know we haven't. They haven't really been presenting any information in a public forum like a San Diego Comic-Con or a D23 for a while. I get that, and I know that's coming in the next month or so, and they're probably going to drop some news. I get it, 100%.
I hope we get it.
That's not the only issue. That's not the only issue with the MCU right now. The major one that we're talking about right now is the quality of the content that we're getting. And I don't think it's measuring up to what we got in the previous three phases.
I think, and this is
barring some exceptions.
Yeah, and I'm speaking this just for me, and I don't know if this agrees with you. I'm assuming it probably will, but I am willing to forgive that nothing feels like it's leading to a bigger overall story if the quality was of a higher standard. 100%. Because I'm 100% willing to be patient and let it build. Chunk, you're about to get banned. We do not say Iron Fist in this house. But you know what I mean? Like, if the quality was good, I would quite happily sit back and go, Marvel's got it in hand. Of course they do. Yeah. I'll see where this goes. But I'm legitimately getting worried because it isn't just like one happened and it was like, it was okay. We've had that a million times in the MCU. You know what I mean? It's like, a movie's came out, it's been not as great as the rest, but I said it to you, even movies I came out with, even like Thor the 7 Kids. Oh yeah, as we 7 Kids, man.
Holy word, dude.
I know.
God bless you.
God bless your missus. But you know what I mean? It's like, even movies that I didn't like that much, like Thor the Dark World, or like the Iron Man 2 and 3, or like the movies that are kind of subpar for a lot of people. And I can look at it and go like that, yeah, it wasn't that great, there's definite issues with that. I mean, I can even look at stuff like freaking Captain America Civil War and go, yeah, there's some issues there, but I came out hyped as. I
still love the movie.
I came out like, yes, let's go. I'm legitimately to time you out, Chunk. But you know what I mean? Like I legitimately like was hyped, and then afterwards I'd go, oh, there were some issues, but I can look past it. With this stuff, I'm legitimately coming out. I'm like, what is going on? Like this, it doesn't feel like the level that Marvel has been at. Marvel has been at the forefront of this, and it's not like someone came and like tapped them off the pedestal and it started to overtake them. But they're still making good stuff. I seen someone mention it on Twitter, and I got really worried because I'm legitimately worried that they're going to start going this way if they're not already. Because Disney's the one backing them, and Disney's is a powerhouse that wants one thing: to make money. And when you've got movies that are making $1 billion now, like legitimately you could say this movie's coming out from Marvel and show no trailer, no pictures, nothing, and you're still guaranteed you're going to hit a good few million, if not hit $1 billion.
Yeah.
My problem is that we're getting like 13, 14, 15, 16 projects within 2 years. So you're talking about 8 projects within a year. I legitimately typed out Chunk. Love you, Chunk.
It was only 1 second. I'm sorry, I had to do it.
Chunk typed it for a second. That's amazing. I wasn't expecting that. I'm sorry, I wasn't expecting that. It just totally threw me when I seen that pop up. But it's like, man. I really hope it isn't a case of like, hey, look how much money we can make in a year with 3 movies. Imagine how much money we can make with like 4 movies, and how much money we're going to make off of Disney Plus with people buying subscriptions if we drop 4, 5, 6 Disney Plus shows in a year.
Yeah. Like genuinely speaking, I think the same thing's going to happen to Star Wars. I think they're just going to start, and maybe the appetite for Star Wars stuff is there because there's been such a drought, I guess, over the past decade of like,
I think there's an
material.
appetite because they've got a whole universe of stuff to explore.
Yeah.
And they've kind of made the smart thing, because we're now starting to get a lot of Star Wars projects, but they're all becoming Disney Plus shows.
Mm-hmm.
And we're kind of pulling back from the movies a little bit. I know Taika Waititi's got one coming, but it's like we've kind of pulled back from that to focus on other stuff. With Marvel, it's like it's literally full steam ahead.
Yeah.
And that's my thing. It's like I say all this stuff. I'm gonna say this for myself. I haven't seen any of the Netflix shows, including Iron Fist. They're all on Disney Plus, Chunk. Go watch Daredevil and Punisher today. Binge them now. You'll trust me, thank me later.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened, Chunk. You were timed out, you were put in the brig. But we are not Marvel haters. I am a huge fan of the MCU. I love the Marvel movies. I was at Endgame cheering my head off for that movie. I still get hyped. I'll go on YouTube and watch clips of Cap picking up Mjolnir.
I do the same exact thing.
Or like Cap facing down Thanos' army and then just hearing "on your left" and all this the portals over. I'll watch that and still get hyped. I am an MCU fan, and I don't come in here to rip this stuff apart. And if you're a fan of the stuff in the way it is now, I'm so glad. I mean, I say it all the time. The movies, just like comic books, not everything is for everyone. Some people are going to love certain things, some people aren't.
The thing is, if you love something, like you're like really passionate about it, like super passionate about it, and you're going to be the one who's going to be the most brutally honest about it. Hopefully. No,
absolutely, man. And it's like, it's just, I love the MCU, and I want to see good quality stuff coming out. And I don't think Phase 4's their best.
Mm-hmm.
The shows are average at best. Even though I enjoyed it, like I just finished Miss Marvel. I finally managed to finish it. Like I said this to you, man. I trudged to get through that. I was in no rush to watch it, and I actually ended up enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
I actually ended up fairly enjoying the show. It's one of the better ones that's came out, in my opinion. When I finally got through it, I liked it. Yeah, like even like that chunk saying like Iron Man's like finger snaps. Even he says I am Iron Man and snaps his finger. I'm getting chills, man.
I know, dude.
It's like
legitimately the best experience I've ever had, no question. tops everything in the theater.
And I just want to call it LJ there. Thank you for that comment. I appreciate it. It says, I love that I tuned in today. You guys genuinely know what you're talking about, unlike other echo chambers of the internet. I appreciate that, dude. Thank you so much.
Man.
Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate the praise.
We don't like... I mean, you and I disagree on some stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But I think for the most part, like, we kind of line up for the most part, like maybe 85% of the time, 88%.
Most of the time, we're kind of in the same path. We disagree and stuff, but even then, it's like we talk stuff out. Like, I'll have to listen to your opinion, and I understand like why you like certain stuff, and I understand why you don't like certain stuff, except for Firefly when you're just wrong.
Well, I think a good example is Avengers. Like, I did at one point say that it was garbage tier. It's not garbage tier. I was in it. It was a heated moment, and I felt like I had to have a really hot take.
You typed those words out, man. It's like the fact that you didn't get slaughtered for that when you said that. I'm like, you said that, and I ducked and covered.
The community was very gracious to me. I will say it is definitely not anywhere near my favorite Marvel movie, and I think you and I have talked through this, and I think you can see some of my points. I see some of your points as far as why it's one of your favorites. I get that.
Yeah,
I get it,
absolutely.
and I understand. But like we don't say. I say all that to say we don't say hot takes just to say hot takes. Like they come from a
like we give our opinions in this show. It's like I may be disagreeing with what everyone else in the world is saying, but like if you come to the show, we're going to give you our opinions on stuff. And thank you, LG. I appreciate it as well. Comes to us for comic book recommendations. You need to open Transformers, man. It's like he's finished it. I'm only a few issues in. I've only had a chance to read a couple of issues. The first like 4 chapters is like the origin of Megatron, and it's so cool. Freaking amazing.
You've started to read it?
Oh yeah, cool. It's so good. I've got to like the Decepticons just starting to get put together now. Like we're just starting to put the badge on and stuff, and I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, so good.
Yeah,
such a good like. I'm hyped for the Transformers comic. That's one we're definitely doing at Indie Comic Book Club, man.
Heck yeah, dude.
So good.
Totally down.
Yeah, absolutely, LG. Like Avengers is definitely. I don't think it's aged as well as it could have. It's definitely a bit of a time capsule for the 2012 one, but it 100% has got nostalgia for me. I will never forget that feeling of going into Avengers and that feeling of seeing them come together for the first time. Like, no hype of thinking of Infinity War and Endgame and anything. Like, them all coming together for the first time. Like, the thought of something like that happening in cinema had never been done before. It was insane and it was phenomenal, and that will always like resonate nostalgia for me because of that. I fully admit the movie has problems. It is not a perfect movie by any means.
Yeah.
I get
the
way,
nostalgia.
you know.
Because I mean, you look at that one part where it's just this revolving cut or a revolving scene between all the Avengers fighting Loki's army. Yeah. That's one of the coolest scenes in any Avengers movie. I mean, let's be honest.
That's one of the coolest scenes. So cool. Like everyone knows that. That's a pop culture scene now. That shot is like, oh, so good.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are here to give our opinions on it, and this opinion is like, honestly, I did not enjoy Thor: Love and Thunder. It was an okay movie, but I came out of it feeling really disappointed.
Yeah, I was sad. Like, I know that sounds.
This
like
had potential to be something really good, and it wasn't.
Yeah, I don't want to over exaggerate, but I was like, when I came out of it, because going into it, you have a bunch of mediocre stuff, in my opinion, from the MCU in Phase 4. So going into this, I was like, man, this needs to hit.
Yeah.
This needs to hit.
I think I said it to you going in. Like I said, I'm legitimately nervous going into this.
Yeah. And when we came out, I was like, dang it. Like, man, you needed to hit and you missed it.
100%.
And I was super disappointed. And now, in my opinion, it's all up to Black Panther 2. Which, to be fair, I think looks like it's lining up to be pretty cool, in my opinion.
I'm not going to lie.
You might disagree. I know you might disagree.
I'm not going to lie. Without Chadwick Boseman, without Boseman even, yeah. I lost my mouth. Just stopped working halfway through his last name. I don't know why. But without having T'Challa in the movie, I'm nervous with the direction they're going. Because like I legitimately, with all the stuff that happened with like with what's her face that plays Shuri, Letitia Wright, like with the whole like the anti-vaxxer stuff and all that, and it's like if that's her opinion, fair enough. But like I've seen the way that Disney's responded to that stuff before.
Yeah. So
that alone, I'm like, I don't know what that's going to do to affect the movie.
Yeah.
But our Marvel Lord and Savior has appeared in a leak to save us all.
Yes.
Oh, praise God, King Doom, in his possible first appearance.
Speaking of, and
if they get him right, I will forgive everything I have said today if they have Doctor Doom in this movie and get him right.
Alright, so this is a possible spoiler that we're kind of tippy-toeing into right now, so if you don't want to hear anything about this, just leave for a second. But, to cross this point, there has been some leaks, some pre-viz leaks, of a fully costumed Dr. Von Doom. And he looks gorgeous.
Freaking perfect. Amazing.
He looks perfect.
Comic accurate costume is so
one thing
good.
One thing I will say, this week as well, there have been set pick releases, set pick shots of Secret Invasion. The guy that is in the picture with Dr. Doom, you see the back of his head, has been shown on set in Secret Invasion. So it's looking like that leak might be legit. It looks sweet.
If you have not listened to this show or been here for a lot of our stuff, you may think I'm overreacting. You have no idea how excited I am for Doctor Doom and how excited I've been for him since Marvel got the rights back for Fantastic Four. I have not shut up about it, nor will I ever shut up about how amazing a villain he is and how much he needs to be the next big bad. Screw freaking Kang, screw your Secret Invasions. Doom is a bigger threat than Thanos ever has. People who don't know Marvel Comics are like, how can you top Thanos? Doctor Doom.
Yep.
I will never get over the image of Secret Wars of God King Doom at the height of his power, ripping Thanos' spine out of his body and leaving him in a heap. You want to know what's bigger than Thanos? Doom. If this is him coming into it and they get him right, oh, I'm ready. I'm so ready. You know,
I'm posting something in chat for those of you who do not mind being potentially spoiled. What we're talking about is the picture that I'm getting ready to post. So.
Oh yeah, and absolutely LJ, like, he's a straight boss, and like Ultimate Alliance when he gets his Guardian powers, is like, yeah, it's good, man. I'm excited.
I need to read up on my Secret Wars stuff. I'm almost through.
It's like the future looks like it could be bright for Marvel.
Agreed.
I by no means am I saying that this stuff is like this, that it's a lost cause.
Yeah,
that
it's
the
a
MCU
snapshot
is
of
done.
where the MCU is right now. This is a snapshot. What we're talking about is a snapshot. And I
want the quality to get better. Whether that means they just get other people involved in it, if whether that means they cut back on certain stuff, whatever they have to do to get the quality back to where it was, do it. And I'm with there front and center. Like, when, don't get me wrong, when Black Panther comes out later this year, Wakanda Forever, I will be there. When the rest of the Disney Plus shows drop, She-Hulk, What If Season 2,
I'll be there.
Whatever the hell else is meant to come out this year. There's like 15 things coming out. Is Ironheart this year? Ironheart and Secret Invasion, is that this year or early next year, whenever they're out?
That is a good question. I don't know.
Whatever comes out, I'll be there. I'll check it out. I will be there on Wednesdays for Disney Plus. I'll be at the cinema when the movies drop.
We have Ant-Man coming out, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and the Marvels next year.
Yeah,
so
like, I have no qualms about it. Like, even the Marvels that was mentioned in chat a little bit, I'm excited to check that out because I enjoyed Miss Marvel. I wasn't a big fan of Captain Marvel, but Monica Rambeau and what she done in WandaVision was phenomenal. The actress, I completely forgot her name, that plays Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel in the Miss Marvel show, she's phenomenal. She's a great actress. For such a young actor, she's a phenomenal actress. I'm hyped to see what they do with it. I just don't want them to keep dropping the ball.
Agreed.
But we've got so much great content, and the exciting thing is, there's more of The Boys coming out, there's more of Invincible coming out, there's more of these other amazing things out there. I don't think comic book stuff's going away anytime soon, and the greatest thing is that majority of stuff is really good quality.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe it is a case we've been spoiled up to this point. Maybe we have been really spoiled with how good the Marvel stuff has been. You know, so we've had a lot of amazing movies come out of the MCU. But at the same time, I'm like, I want more. I don't want Endgame to be the last like phenomenal thing I've seen. You know.
I think it's we know what type of quality they can put out, and we're not seeing that right now, and it's frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, you put out the type of quality of something like No Way Home, and then like like how long has it been since that came out? And we've got Thor, Love and Thunder, and I'm like, it's like, really? No, they're not. They're not even close. It's not even just tonally different. It's just different, and that's such an awful way. And yes, 100% adds Henry Cavill in anything. I'd be fine with him being Captain Britain. And I've seen you mention it earlier. I meant to say it as well. Ads. I want to see them do good stuff with Blade as well. Like, I love the Wesley Snipes Blade movies. The first two anyway were amazing. Trinity was
third one was just
utter crap, but the first two are amazing. Like,
yeah,
I really want to sit and watch Blade 2 now. That's literally just put in my head. Like, it's such a good movie.
That's one of the three MCU movies that I don't have.
Is it like Luke Goss? I can't remember the guy's name that plays the main villain in Blade 2. He's phenomenal.
Stephen Dorff. No,
Stephen Dorff's the first one.
Yeah.
Luke Goss is the head of like the vampires in the second one, and it's like, who also plays like the big bad for Hellboy 2 as well.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Both phenomenal movies, by the way.
I didn't know Donnie Yen was in Blade 2. That's crazy. Alright, sorry.
Sorry, we're getting on rants again. But yeah, they're talking about the phase in general, and Cross said something about Shang-Chi being a martial artist, and you're talking about you getting banned. But yeah, like I'm not a fan of where Phase 4 has come, but I'm hopeful that we can get back on track. And like I said, I will happily hold my hands up if something happens like across the next few movies and shows.
Like, this is what we were doing.
And everything ties up. Like, Secret Invasion starts to tie stuff up, and Ant-Man and the Wasp ties stuff up with Kang, and the Marvel starts to tie stuff in, and it all starts to make sense. I will hold my hands up and say I was wrong. We've done it before. I'll happily say it again. But this is where we are right now with it, you know?
I heard about Anthony Starr being Dracula.
Possibly being Dracula.
That would be sick.
Ooh, I did not hear about that one. That'd be cool.
So Cross, I got a question.
Give Anthony Starr all the roles. Give him everything. He's amazing. Give him everything.
As we're kind of getting to the end, what are your predictions for San Diego Comic-Con from a Marvel MCU perspective and D23 in September? Like, what do you think are the big things that they're going to focus on?
Well, if the rumours are right, the big thing for D23 is meant to be Fantastic Four. They're talking about the director and the casting announcement for it. That will be the biggest thing coming out of D23 if it's true. They won't do anything to top that because they're wanting Fantastic Four to be a banger, because they're trying to compete with. It has to be. They're trying to compete with the previous Fantastic Four movies, and basically do what they've done with other stuff and show, now that it's in our hands, we're capable of it.
Yeah.
For San Diego Comic-Con, I don't know.
Because
it's weird, because San Diego Comic-Con...
this week?
Is it this week, San Diego? I know it's coming up. I can't remember the exact dates. Is it this week?
Pretty sure it is.
For San Diego Comic-Con, I honestly don't know. Because the thing is, like, I don't know. We'll definitely get stuff towards the stuff that's coming up this year. I'm assuming San Diego Comic-Con, we're going to get the trailer for Wakanda Forever.
Oh yeah.
We're going to get stuff like that. We're going to get trailers for some of the
Ant-Man teaser, maybe
an Ant-Man teaser, probably a Marvel's one, because there've been talks of, like, there's been clips showing, like, the Marvel stuff apparently going around. Apparently there was, like, was his face Paul Rudd with like Ant-Man with Carol Danvers and Miss Marvel.
Okay.
Stuff. So I think we'll get a bit of the Marvels, if not Ant-Man stuff, possibly. Definitely Wakanda Forever. But I think Fantastic Four is going to be the big announcement. We won't get anything to see, obviously, but that'll be the big announcement for D23 of who the actors are.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if we're going to start to see some mutant stuff.
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, X-Men...
Which, again, spoilers for Miss Marvel. But we've had the second now reference to mutants, because we had Professor X and Multiverse of Madness. And now we've had Miss Marvel, and the reference that what's going on in her body is a mutation.
Second time we've heard that little ditty.
You know what this means, right? Are you hyped for the X-Men yet? We're going to keep playing the freaking animated theme until you're hyped enough. But yeah, like we might get a reference to that, but I don't know.
I think we'll get a teaser for the X-Men show, X-Men '97, which is a continuation of
yes,
the
that's right.
show.
That's coming out.
Animated show from the '90s is coming out next year. So I would assume we would get maybe a teaser of that, maybe a D23, maybe. But I think to your point, I think Fantastic Four is going to be the biggie. I think we probably get some trailers, some more trailers for like She-Hulk. And what's the other show that's coming out this year? There's another show that's coming out later this year. I don't know. Maybe a trailer for Blade, or a teaser for Blade, or something like that.
Maybe. It depends on the release dates. Like, honestly, I can't even make a guess because I don't have it up in front of me, like the list of like release dates for stuff.
Yeah.
So like whatever the next things are, we'll probably get stuff for them.
Yeah.
Like at least up to mid next year, maybe we'll get little hints at things. But
yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. As Paul Rudd found the fountain of youth, there is no way that guy should look like that and be as old as he is. Like,
yeah, it's kind of crazy.
It's kind of nuts. But yeah, I think I guess there's nothing really much to add on to it. I'm kind of like it's just kind of like
I'm hyped for where I think the MCU could go. Like, because you have all these big projects like Fantastic Four, you have Doctor Doom, you have Kang, you have Secret Wars, you have all this stuff, these really cool heroes being introduced. Yeah, it has the potential to be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we've got so many options ahead of us, it could be phenomenal.
I'm just worried.
Worried. Nice, LJ. Cal Dodd coming to your con this year. Sweet. That'll be cool. Is he coming? Is Cal Dodd still doing, like, is he playing Wolverine in the new X-Men, or is it going to be someone else? I don't even know if there's any voice actors.
I'm pretty sure he is voicing him.
Is he? I was going to say, because I've not even heard like any of the announcements for voice actors and stuff, so I wasn't even sure. The phase, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, he is voicing him. I'm looking at
like a midlife crisis. Absolutely, LG. I'm quite happy. Like, see if this ends up being just a little in between thing with just some like solo little filler stories before we get into the next stuff. I'll look back on it with a lot more fond memories than I am currently going through it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But overall, I'm like, right now it's wait and see. It's wait and see what's to come. I feel I don't think there's a definitive answer.
Yep.
Of like what's to come, but in terms of what we've seen so far, like with Thor, I felt like they dropped the ball.
Yeah.
With what could have been, with introducing the new pantheons, with Gore, with Mighty Thor, with everything, it felt like it just. Let's put it this way: when half your fan base is now questioning the fact of whether or not they even want a Thor 5, and the fact that Taika Waititi shouldn't be touching the project anymore, it's kind of like,
yeah.
Like we can't have Moon Knight and not see that character get used again. No, absolutely, right. LG. I want to see more, especially the way they left off Moon Knight. See the way they left off Moon Knight season 1, and then went, oh yeah, we don't know if we're doing season 2. It's like, well, why did you put a freaking cliffhanger at the end of it? Also, is anybody disappointed that we didn't see any of the Egyptian gods at the Pantheon?
No, right?
You literally just introduced them in Moon Knight, and I'm like, what, none make an appearance, really? Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think so much stuff was set up and there wasn't clear-cut ways of where to go with certain things. You know, like that with with Moon Knight. Oh, it's a cliffhanger, and I'm like, but we're not going to do anything with it. And okay, or like Hawkeye, clearly set up to keep going and telling Kate Bishop's story. Or we're not doing a second season. She'll just show up somewhere. I'm like, okay. Thankfully, like Kingpin and Daredevil are meant to be showing up in Echo. They at least confirmed. There's at least rumours circulating that that's possibly a thing, and I'm like,
this version of Kingpin.
Just go, let him be the. Just let him be the Netflix version. Just let him be the Netflix version. There was nothing wrong with that.
Let him be that.
What do you think of that, by the way? Apparently Daredevil's going to be having his black costume as well. Not like the Frank Miller like blindfold one, but his actually black Daredevil costume.
I don't know if I know that one. Not the yellow one, right?
No. The he wore it for a little while. Let me see if I can pull it up. Daredevil costume.
Because the only black costume that I know of is the one with the bandana across his face.
Oh, for goodness sake. So of course I put it in black costume.
Oh, I see what you're talking about, the black and red accents.
Yeah, with the red accents to it.
Oh, okay. I like that, actually. I like the way that looked.
Yeah. He's worn it a few times, that one. It's like he usually goes back to the red one eventually, but like...
I like it, man. I would love to see him wear the yellow one, but I get why they don't want to do that one. It's kind of gaudy.
So for anyone it's in the...
Yeah, I like that one.
So apparently that's the costume they're going to be going with. I'm like, which one? I'm good with that. I like that costume.
Black and red, LJ.
That's the rumours anyway, but we'll see if they end up doing that. I just checked my Comic-Con for August, and Red Dwarf Arnold Rimmer will be there. Oh my gosh, yes. Absolutely. Ads, if I get you something, can you get it signed for me? I would absolutely love that, Chris Barrett, to sign something. Love Red Dwarf. My comedy sci-fi stuff, everyone knows British sci-fi comedy.
Got it.
But
I'm lost.
No worries, don't worry. Just we'll talk. The British people will talk about this one.
I'll sit this next couple plays out.
But yeah, I think the future's hopeful and the future's still bright.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not like beyond salvaging it at this point. I don't feel.
No.
But I feel like if we continue on the path that we're on, we should be concerned. Because the MCU is not just competing in a vacuum anymore like it was early on. It's competing against really high quality stuff.
Yeah.
Especially geek stuff and nerd stuff. Geek and nerd culture has blown up and has become mainstream now, which if you told like teenage me that, I would never have believed you.
It's cool to be a nerd now.
Yeah. Still not used to that. Not even a little. Like I grew up as a nerd. It was not cool.
Not at all.
Not even slightly. Being a comic book fan was not an everyday thing. But I mean, it's like I think we're never going to be shy of that content, and I think the different stuff is only good. I kind of almost want Marvel to take a dip in like how much success they're having, because I want it to be a case of when they take a dip in that when the other stuff starts to get really big compliments and starts to make a lot of money, that it'll push them to be better.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? It's like I'm always a believer of like competition is a bigger thing.
Agreed.
You know, like I used to grow up as a wrestling fan, and I always believed that like the era that we grew up in watching wrestling, that the wrestling quality was better because there was a company giving them competition. As soon as that company disappeared, the quality freaking dipped.
Yep.
So I was like, yeah, absolutely, LG. They kind of almost need to be humbled, like, because they're like the juggernaut at the top of the thing now, and it's like, but if they get dropped, it'll make them step back and reassess, and that would.
It's not what people want. A bunch of mediocre content.
No, absolutely not. It's like you're going to give us high quality stuff. Keep up the high quality stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
I would rather
Exactly,
have
LG.
one Marvel project a year that is massively high quality than 8-9 projects a year that are all average.
Yep. Agreed.
You know, I don't want them to get into a place of, if we keep pushing more content, it's going to get us more money, and that be the driving force as opposed to making stuff that's really good. Because if they make stuff that's really good, they'll do both. They'll make even more money.
Yep.
You know, because like this is I don't want them to have got to Endgame and be resting on their laurels at this point. I want them to have got to Endgame and go, actually we should be digging in harder now, because anyone that's been invested at any point at the first 3 phases, you literally have a point to dip out now that Endgame's passed.
Yep.
You've got no reason to invest. The whole story that it's been building up to is done. Iron Man's gone. Captain America's gone. You know, it's like all these heroes that Black Widow's gone. It's like they're gone. It's a whole new different heroes. I wonder if being backed up by COVID had an effect too. It maybe had an effect to a certain extent, but at the same time they readjusted like release times and stuff to a certain bit. Like you know what I mean? Like One Division came out first, but it wasn't meant to be the first project released. It was meant to be something else, and I'm like, which I'm kind of like, what was the original plan that changed? Constipated with content, LG. That is an image I did not think I was going to get today. Thank you so much for that. But yeah, it's like I think I think the future's looking bright for it. I think we're looking hopeful. We can't blame the issues of writing and planning. Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. The writing and planning, the big things, and it's like. But they've got enough people. They've got the chance to turn it around still.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that's pretty much us for Thor and for Phase 4 today, and I think that's a good place to kind of wrap it up. We're kind of there. One thing I do actually want to talk about briefly, because I don't know if I've talked about it in the podcast yet. I know we've mentioned it in different streams, and we've been like going crazy in Discord talking about it. But in the near future, we're going to actually be having a little bit of a change to our regularly scheduled content.
Oh yeah.
Don't worry, we're still going to be here on Sundays doing our podcast thing. You're not getting rid of us that easily. But a couple of streams are going to be coming to an end to open up way for another stream. Art of the Hero is going to be finishing up. Don't worry, Nitro's still going to be here. He's still going to be doing art stuff.
He'll be doing art, yeah.
You can still get commissions from him. You can still get your logos done and all that sort of stuff. He's still going to be doing his thing. And the Sea of Thieves stream is actually going to be wrapping up on Fridays because we don't have another free night. So, dedicate to this. But we are actually going to be dedicating ourselves to a brand new Dungeons and Dragons. Got our dice on the go there. Go on, I'm on stream. I have to do it once. I have to.
Let's see if I can get it.
13.
Crit hit. No, I got a 1.
That one. Nitro's computer just blows up while he's sitting there.
So just to tell you a little bit about this, I've got a piece so bad, so I'm gonna try to make this as quick as possible. So we are starting Dungeons and Dragons. We don't have a lot of details right now. We have our first DM for our first campaign, and his name is Tom Levine, which if you've been following our podcast for any length of time, you know he's been a guest of ours. He is a published author. He's worked with Todd McFarlane of Spawn, and he also has his own comic, Beckett's Last Mixtape, which is awesome. Everything 13 Reasons Why wishes it was.
Which we totally did an interview with him regarding, so you should totally go to our YouTube channel and check it out.
So he's going to be doing our first campaign. Right now we have 4 players. Again, we need to check with him as far as how big he wants the party. But after this first campaign, once we get our footing under us, we're probably going to be making this a regular part of the channel. We have Discord channels set up for it, which if you are not in our Discord, there's a shout out for that. We have a list of DMs that have already kind of offered their services, so to speak, and we have a list of players that have already volunteered to play. So if you are not on that list and you would like to be considered for a DM in a future campaign, because Cross nor I have ever played D&D, and you would like to play, please hit us up Discord. We've been chatting about it for weeks. We're super excited. That's all I really have to say. Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, I'll talk. I've got something else to pitch. If you need to go pee, there's your chance.
I gotta go pee. I'll be right back. I've been on it for so long. I'll be right back.
Man has a bladder like an 80-year-old. But yeah, so we're absolutely going to be doing some D&D on the channel. We're really excited for this. Massive shout out to Tom, who's going to be DMing for us. Guest DMs and occasional guest players would be cool. Yeah, so like we're still getting our foot, and we're going to do our first campaign with him to kind of get our footing under it, and then from there we're going to see where we want to take it. We've got a couple of people who have been interested in DMing and possibly doing DM roles, but we've also got a bunch of people who are wanting to play. I think like a ton of people have came forward, either seasoned players, or if you're like brand new to it, if you want to play. We've had a couple of people who have never played before, like Nitro and I have never done Dungeons and Dragons like we wanted to. I know Caleb over at the Space Hawk just wrapped up like a D&D campaign, which I was totally gutted that my schedule wouldn't allow that. So we're really excited and hyped. Thank you, LJ, appreciate it, brother. So we're really excited for this. We're really getting in. Like Nitro's got his player's handbook. I've got my player's handbook coming in today. So that was just creepy. What in the world was that entrance? But yeah, as I was saying, like cannot hear you.
Daggone it, I knew that. I knew it was on me.
You sure you did. Sure you did. But yeah, like as we were saying, if anyone wants to come in and play, hit us up in the Discord if you're interested in playing, if you want to be a DM, if you want to just get involved. Whether you've played tons of D&D and you're a seasoned veteran, or you've never played a game before, let us know.
Yeah.
We want to get as much of the community involved as we can with it.
Yeah.
Also, I want to do a little bit of shout out. I'm going to put up some links in our chat right now. My lovely wife Jay, who you may know from Monday nights here on stream. Where's my thing moving? There we go. I tried to scroll up there and it just wasn't doing it. My lovely wife Jay, who you may know from Monday nights here, playing You Have Died, Try Again, playing a lot of different horror games, playing some Nancy Drew games. She's decided to go off on an adventure, and she's dragging Mrs. Nitro along with her. Our lovely ladies are going to be kicking off their own adventures into podcasting and social media and everything, with My Cup of Tea. This is not going to be in the same vein of what we're doing, because somehow these comic book geeks managed to, marry fairly cultured women who like the finer things in life.
Believe it or not.
They like the finer things in life and somehow ended up with us, so don't look a gift horse in the mouth on that one.
Just take it when it comes to it.
But they are doing a podcast that's going to be talking about literature, talking about the arts, talking about anything like that. So if you yourself are interested in hearing their thoughts on that, or know anyone that would be interested in it, please send them that way. The link should be there for the Etsy store links there. I don't see a link for the podcast. I should have included that. Why is that not in there? But hit us up on Discord to get the link for the podcast itself, or hit their social media. Jay's eventually going to look to switch over to her own My Cup of Tea 1775 Twitch channel. It's not going to happen probably for some time, but the plan is to move there. So if you want to go drop her a follow for when that happens, hit her up in the social media. She's on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, up on YouTube where those stuff will be getting uploaded. And then also she has an Etsy store that has now opened with her first piece of artwork for sale. Be a Light painting she's done. It was a piece that was paint by numbers, and the artwork was already done, and she added the colouring to it, and she is currently working on her first original piece, which is going to be going up on the store as well. So please hit that up, check that out, and if you're interested, by all means go ahead and purchase. But please just show some love and support. I know you've shown love and support for her Monday nights here, but we would love you to continue that with her actual stuff if you're interested. So thank you so much for that, guys. But yeah, I think that's it for us today. Speaking of Jay, she will be back tomorrow night, delving back into, I'm not sure what she's doing, if she's doing some Phasmo or some Nancy Drew. I don't know what the plan is at the moment. I'll check with her, but she will be back 8:30 tomorrow night. Then I will be back Tuesday night with some more Horizon Zero Dawn, getting back into that game. Nitro will be back on Thursday, I believe, doing some more Art of the Hero.
Depending on whether or not I may or may not be starting on D's commission, Just Me D's commission from the 12-hour stream on Thursday. If not, I'll be working on some D&D stuff.
Nice.
Some character art.
And then, as far as I know at this point, we will be doing some Sea of Thieves on Friday, so if you're interested in setting sail with me, getting as many sailing as we can before we end up stopping it for D&D, by all means just let us know and we'll get you in for some good times this Friday night. And then, are you going to be here next Sunday?
That's a really good question. I don't know the answer to that right now. I think I should be doing a stream this coming Sunday, but
keep up with us on Discord and on social media to hear what's happening this Sunday. I will not be here. Jay is going out of town to see a friend, so I will be with the kids all weekend. So there will be no.
I will pray for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I don't know if I'm going to survive it. So I won't be here for the podcast on Sunday, and Jay also won't be here on next Monday night, because she gets back in Monday evening. So 100% keep up to date with us on social media and Discord to hear if Nitro's going to be doing something this Sunday, if he does a podcast, if he does some gaming, some art, whatever he gets up to. But I think that's pretty much everything for what's coming up this week.
Sweet.
Alright, we just need to go and drop a lovely raid on someone, depending who is even live right now. Let's see. Sorry, I know I've just gone all quiet there. Try to see if any of our regular friends are on. Oh, Cameron's on. Carol, Diana. Let's go and show them some love today. Alright, we're going to go and hang out with Cameron, but thank you so much for everyone that came and hung out with us today. Please stick around with the raid and show them some love, and we will see you all tomorrow night. And remember, it is a good week to be a geek.
Eat my hammer.
Have a good week, everyone. Oh my goodness.
Cierro mi